He didn't just humiliate me in front of the most important client of my career. He unknowingly set the stage for the ultimate test. Tonight, I would bet everything I had built against everything I thought I wanted. The air in the ballroom was thick with the scent of money and lilies. Crystal chandeliers dripped light onto a sea of velvet gowns and tailored tuxedos, and the sound of polite laughter mixed with the clinking of champagne flutes. To anyone else, it was the social event of the season, the annual fundraiser for the Children's Foundation. For me, it was a battlefield. My business, a boutique marketing firm I had built from scratch over 6 grueling years, was on the cusp of breaking into the big leagues. All I needed was one major client, one titan of industry, to take a chance on me. And he was here tonight, Arthur Harrison. My dress felt like armor, a shimmering sheath of navy silk I'd spent too much on, hoping it would make me look like I belonged. My smile felt like a shield, plastered on my face to hide the frantic thumping of my heart. And my husband, Mark, was a ticking time bomb strapped to my chest. When we arrived, he was perfect, charming, handsome, holding my hand just right. He'd promised me he'd be on his best behavior. "Just 2 drinks, babe, I swear. I know how important this is for you." I wanted to believe him. I always wanted to believe him. The first drink was a celebratory glass of champagne when we walked in. Fine. The second was a whiskey, neat after he schmoozed with some mid-level executives. A little fast, but okay. I saw him flag down a waiter for a third as I was trying to discreetly network near the silent auction tables. My smile tightened at the edges. "Having fun?" I asked, my voice a little too bright as I intercepted him. "Relax, Sarah," he said, giving my lower back a squeeze that was just a little too familiar for this crowd. "I'm just loosening up. These people are stiffs." The wife, an hour later, loosened up, had morphed into loud. His laughter was a booming interruption in the sophisticated hum of the room. His face was flushed, and a fine sheen of sweat was beading on his forehead. I watched with a familiar sinking dread as he cornered a city councilman to tell a long, rambling story that wasn't nearly as funny as he thought it was. I was mortified, constantly trying to steer him away, to suggest we get some water, to pull him onto the dance floor, anything to contain the damage. Then my moment came. I saw Arthur Harrison standing alone for a split second near the grand terrace doors, looking out over the city lights. He was the CEO of a massive tech conglomerate, the white whale I had been chasing for months. My portfolio was on his desk. I knew it. This was my chance to make a personal impression. Taking a deep breath, I excused myself from a conversation and made a beeline for him, praying Mark wouldn't notice. "Mr. Harrison, I'm Sarah Jennings. I just wanted to say it's an honor to be here tonight. Your company's sponsorship has made such a difference." He turned, his eyes sharp and intelligent. He was older, with silver hair, and a gaze that seemed to assess your entire net worth in a single glance. "Ms. Jennings, your marketing firm, correct? I was looking over your proposal this morning. Interesting approach to the European market." My heart soared. He knew who I was. He'd read it. "I'm so glad it caught your eye. I believe our strategy." A heavy arm suddenly draped over my shoulders, and the cloying scent of whiskey filled the air between us. "There you are, honey." Mark's voice was syrupy, his words slurring together. "I was looking all over for you. Talking shop with the big man, huh?" I wanted to evaporate. I could feel the blood drain from my face. "Mark, this is Mr. Harrison. Mr. Harrison, my husband, Mark." Mr. Harrison's polite smile didn't waver, but his eyes went cold. He gave Mark a curt nod. "A pleasure. E.T.'s." "Likewise," Mark slurred, attempting to puff out his chest. He squinted at Mr. Harrison, a strange, competitive glint in his bloodshot eyes. He looked him up and down, from his perfectly tailored suit to his expensive watch. The polite chatter around us seemed to fade into a low hum as my entire world narrowed to this one horrifying interaction. This was it. The implosion I had been dreading all night. Mark let out a short, sharp laugh, a sound completely out of place in the elegant ballroom. He turned to the millionaire, a grotesque, knowing smirk spreading across his lips, and said, "I'll bet you $10,000. He paused, letting the silence stretch, making sure he had the full, undivided attention of the most important man in the room. Then he pointed a wavering finger at me. "That my wife can drink you under the table." The silence that followed was a physical thing. It pressed in on me, sucking the air from my lungs and amplifying the frantic beat of my own heart until it was a drum against my ribs. For a horrifying second, I imagined every head in the grand ballroom turning towards us, every conversation ceasing, every eye locking onto the pathetic tableau. The powerful CEO, the desperate businesswoman, and her drunk fool of a husband. I tried to plaster a laugh on my face, something light and dismissive, but it felt like my muscles had frozen. "Mark, don't be ridiculous," I stammered, my hand shooting out to grab his arm, trying to physically pull him back from the abyss he was gleefully swan-diving into. "Mr. Harrison, I am so sorry. He's had a little too much champagne." Mark shook my hand off, his belligerence stoked by my panic. "No, I'm serious. 10 grand. She's tougher than she looks." He winked at Mr. Harrison, a grotesque, conspiratorial gesture that made my stomach turn. I was preparing to literally drag my husband away, to hell with the consequences, when Mr. Harrison held up a perfectly manicured hand. He didn't look at Mark. His gaze, cool and appraising, was fixed entirely on me. He hadn't flinched. He hadn't scowled. If anything, a flicker of something unreadable amusement, curiosity, had sparked in his eyes. "A drinking contest is for fraternity boys, Mark," he said, his voice a low, calm baritone that cut through my anxiety. He finally dismissed my husband with a brief glance before his attention snapped back to me, pinning me in place. "But your husband has inadvertently raised an interesting point. Business, Miss Jennings, is about holding your nerve, about performing under pressure." My mouth was dry. I could only nod. "So let's do this," he continued, a ghost of a smile playing on his lips. "Forget the $10,000. That's an insult. Let's raise the stakes." He gestured to a quieter alcove with 2 leather armchairs. "Come. We'll have one drink. My treat. A glass of 25-year-old Macallan. You will have until you finish that glass to pitch me your strategy. Not the one in the proposal I read, but the one you'd give me right now, knowing what you know about my company's current challenges." My mind reeled. This was a test. A bizarre, alcohol-fueled, public job interview. "If, by the time your glass is empty, I am impressed," he said, his voice dropping slightly, "I will give your firm a 6-month probationary contract. We'll start Monday. If I am not—" He let the sentence hang in the air, the implication as clear and as cold as the ice in the champagne buckets. Fail, and I'd be blacklisted before I even got started. "See?" Mark crowed, clapping me on the back so hard I stumbled. "He gets it." I shot Mark a look that I hoped conveyed the 1,000 daggers I was imagining, before turning back to Mr. Harrison. There was no choice. This was my one shot, born from the ashes of my humiliation. "Okay," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Okay, Mr. Harrison, you have a deal." We sat. The whiskey arrived, a deep amber liquid in heavy crystal tumblers. It burned as it went down, a sharp, smoky fire that paradoxically seemed to clear my head. I ignored Mark, who was hovering nearby like a proud, dim-witted parent. I tuned out the entire ballroom. It was just me, Arthur Harrison, and the biggest pitch of my life. I spoke. I laid out a bold, aggressive plan for his European expansion, citing market data I had memorized weeks ago, identifying weaknesses in his current strategy that his own team had likely been too scared to point out. He listened, his eyes never leaving my face, asking sharp, incisive questions that I met with confident, well-reasoned answers. I was in the zone. The rage I felt at my husband fueled a fire inside me, sharpening my words and my focus. When I finished my last point, I took the final, warming sip of my whiskey and placed the empty glass on the table with a soft click. I had done it. I knew I had. Mr. Harrison stared at me for a long moment, the silence stretching again, but this time it wasn't filled with dread. It was filled with possibility. "Impressive, Miss Jennings," he finally said, a genuine note of respect in his voice. "Very impressive. You can handle your liquor, and you can certainly handle pressure." He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial murmur. "The contract is yours. We'll have my legal team draw it up. But there's a condition." I held my breath. Of course there was. "My private jet leaves for our Zurich headquarters at 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. There's a crisis with our new product launch that needs a fresh perspective. Your perspective. I want you on that plane." He paused, and his eyes, now glinting with an unnerving intensity, met mine. Alone. The word hung in the air between us, heavy and absolute. Alone. It wasn't a suggestion, it was a command. A line drawn in the sand. Mr. Harrison wasn't just offering me a contract. He was offering me an escape hatch from the life that was currently breathing whiskey fumes down the back of my neck. In that single, electrifying moment, I understood the true nature of his test. It wasn't about the whiskey or the pitch. It was about whether I had the courage to sever the anchor that was dragging me down. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic bird beating its wings against a cage. I looked at Mark. He was beaming, completely oblivious, already planning a European vacation in his head. Then I looked back at Mr. Harrison, his expression unreadable, but his eyes sharp, expectant. He was waiting to see if the brilliant, ruthless strategist I had just presented was the real me, or just a character I played at work. "Of course," I said, my voice clear and steady. I stood and extended my hand. "I'll be there. What time should I arrive at the airfield?" Mr. Harrison's lips curved into a genuine smile for the first time. He shook my hand, his grip firm and final. "My assistant will text you the details. Welcome aboard, Miss Jennings." "Whoa, what?" Mark finally piped up, his boozy grin faltering as he processed the exchange. "Zurich? Tomorrow? Babe, I can't get off work that fast. And what does he mean, alone?" I pulled my hand back from Mr. Harrison's and turned to face my husband. The shield I had been wearing all night was gone. The fake smile had vanished. For the first time I let him see the cold, unadulterated fury I felt. "No, Mark," I said, my voice dangerously quiet. "I am going. You're going home." The car ride back to our apartment was a masterclass in silent warfare. The air was thick with unspoken accusations. Mark's drunken pride had curdled into sullen resentment. As soon as the apartment door clicked shut behind us, it erupted. "What the hell was that, Sarah?" he spat, throwing his keys onto the counter. "Making plans with your new boss right in front of me. Alone? You made me look like an idiot." I spun around, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "You think I made you look like an idiot? You who decided to use me as a bargaining chip in a pathetic pissing contest with a billionaire. You offered to sell my dignity for $10,000, Mark, in front of the one person who could make or break my entire career. I was trying to help. I was bragging about you. No, you were making a spectacle of yourself, just like you always do." The words poured out of me, years of frustration and swallowed anger. Every client dinner, every office party, I spend the entire time holding my breath, praying you don't get too drunk, don't tell the wrong joke, don't undo all of my hard work with one stupid, selfish impulse. I am so tired, Mark. I am so tired of managing you. He stared at me, his eyes wide with a mixture of shock and wounded pride. So that's it? You get one big offer and you're just ready to throw us away? I walked past him into our bedroom and pulled my largest suitcase from the top of the closet, dropping it onto the bed with a thud. You threw us away tonight, Mark. You just didn't realize it. I packed with a strange sense of clarity. Each item I folded, a sharp blazer, a silk blouse, my laptop charger felt like a brick in the foundation of a new life. I didn't cry. I felt hollowed out, but also strangely light. When the suitcase was full, I zipped it shut. I walked over to my nightstand, picked up the framed photo of our wedding day, and laid it face down. Then, I twisted the diamond ring off my finger. It felt loose, as if my hand had already rejected it. I placed it on the nightstand next to his wallet, the diamonds glinting under the lamplight like tiny, cold tears. I didn't say another word. I just wheeled my suitcase out the door and closed it softly behind me. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a glass-walled conference room overlooking Lake Zurich. The morning sun glints off the water, and the air smells like coffee and possibility. My team and I have just landed a massive new account, building on the success of that first probationary contract. My phone buzzes on the table. It's a text from an unknown number, but I recognize the tone. "Sarah, please. I miss you. I'm getting help. I swear." I stare at the message for a moment, a ghost of a memory. I remember the weight of his arm on my shoulders, the cloying smell of whiskey, the profound humiliation. Then I look around the room at my team, at the incredible work we're doing, at the future stretching out before me. I press my thumb to the screen, hold it down, and block the number without a second thought. My new life is my own, and it's no longer up for bets.